welcome everyone to another call series of Teach For Afghanistan Organization. In this call, we will be discussing how the pandemic and the COVID-19 has impacted the education sector in different contexts. As we all know, the unexpected COVID-19 and the pandemic affected generally the overall infrastructure in different countries. And in third developing countries like Afghanistan, this effect has been so pervasive, especially on the education sector. So today we have two amazing speakers with us. Nahida, a senior student at Bed College in Maine, USA, who will be sharing her experience how the pandemic affected the overall performance and learning of international students in the USA, and also Liza Khurami, who will be joining us in just a few minutes, and she will discuss how the pandemic affected education and learning in Afghan context. So we're glad to have you all here, and we would like to begin with Nahida. Nahida, could you please tell us and share your experience on how pandemic affected the overall performance of international students in the US, and what challenges did you have there, and how did you deal with all the frustrations?
When the college decided to actually move from in-person learning to remote learning, for us, we were given a week off of school for just planning time where the teachers could plan their schedule according to that, and like their methods as to how they would go about on remote learning, because this had never been done in the past before. So we took that week off, and we all moved out of college. In the US, everyone, the majority of people who are students in colleges, especially in undergraduate schools, they live at the college campus and they go to classes. So it's a quite a culture, also an experience. And for us, everyone had to leave the campus and go back to their homes. International students specifically experienced a challenge because they couldn't just go back to their countries. There were travel restrictions, but also students like myself, we just couldn't go back to our own countries because we don't have the, like you said, the infrastructure for for a remote learning style. So I wouldn't be able to have, online access to my classes. So I had to stay in the US, and the college was actually providing housing for international students, for us at least, to stay on campus and continue with remote learning on campus. But some students who did actually eventually go back home, they were, if they couldn't afford having online access, they didn't have access to the internet or electricity, the college would help out with those. And my college actually graciously helped the students with their transportation fees, with, packaging and giving their with their packing expenses. So if they had to ship things back to their home countries, it was definitely a challenge like none other before. Everyone had to be very innovative at that time. And that was when really the college came together as a community to support students in terms of moving from in-person learning to off-campus remote learning. So the move was definitely challenging, but everyone embraced it with grace and faced this challenge together. When we went, we did go online. I actually stayed with one of my best friends who hosted me over the period of the first 3 months of the pandemic, where we had shelter in place, which meant that we all had to stay in the same spot, no visitors. We had to all quarantine. And the quarantine lasted for the whole summer, and even like throughout the period of the fall when we all went back to school. And we the next fall we did have a hybrid situation where we had in-person and remote learning. So you had a choice of going back in person. I did go back in person with my friends. But over that period, I stayed with my friend at her house, and we basically, continued our learning online. During that time, every professor had their own methods. Some were amazing, some were not as amazing. It didn't work for everyone. Everyone had very different styles. For me, the online lectures worked when it was live. So the professor would present a new topic and give the lecture, and then hold office hours on Zoom where we could go and ask questions if we had problems. Versus others where the lectures were pre-recorded and then sent to us or posted on a forum. And then we would watch that. And then if we had questions about those, we would post the questions and the professor would post the answers so that everyone could see. But the challenge in that was that sometimes we couldn't articulate our questions as well as we could speak it in writing form. So that was a challenge for us. And we could actually talk to our professors with those challenges, and they could actually improve their methods. Some worked, some didn't. It was definitely hard work. But aside from that, from the academic challenges, I would say that as an international student, it was definitely hard to be away from home, because this was a time when TikTok became very famous. Everyone was on their phones, and we would see families just quarantining together, not social distancing from others. And they had that support to be there for each other. And I didn't experience that part where I was on the phone with my parents, but really didn't have that, in-person touch and strong emotional connection at that point. But we did definitely talk. So those were some challenges in terms of just personal issues. And then we also had a visa situation where if at that point, Trump.
Yeah, thank you, Nahid.
Being able to be in the country and continue learning if they were remote. So he had temporarily, thank God this actually didn't go in effect. But essentially the students, foreign students who were in the US and were remote, they could have been deported back to their countries and continue their remote learning from their home countries. And
thank you so much, Nahid. I just come to notice something very interesting with your speech. Like in many countries, the COVID-19 had affected the performance of students. I would like to know whether this had a negative performance on international students on their learning or not. Some of the students are school-dependent learners and they receive additional supports at schools. What do you think? Did it have any impact on the quality of the learning? Because when the majority of US students went into virtual learning, we would love to know whether this virtual learning was as productive as the in-person learning.
So the in-person learning is my favorite. I love being in a classroom and having those live conversations with the students and learning and asking questions. That was my favorite, and just being present in the classroom. And I definitely perform better when I'm in person, personally. But after that, when we went online, I wouldn't say that my performance was affected negatively in any way, but the only thing that I can think of was when I was taking my midterm exams online when it was timed. The internet kept crashing. I didn't have the interaction with the professor where I could ask a question about the question on the exam. So that was challenging, and in a way, I just had to, use my best judgment to answer those questions. But all in all, performance-wise, I think the college was also very understanding. They gave students the option of pass-failing their classes, which meant that if you had the option, you could choose whether you wanted to pass-fail a class or actually accept the grade that you got. So in this case, they grade on a scale of A, B, C. So and in the middle, we have A minuses and A pluses and B minus and B pluses. And so your grade works from 1 to 4, 4 being an A, and then 3.7 is an A minus, and then it's 3.3, which is a B plus, and then 3 is a B minus. It's different for every college, but for us, the students had a choice of whether they wanted to accept those grades, which adds on to their grade average point, which is the GPA. But you could pass fail. And I actually pass failed one of my classes that I didn't think I did that great in. And then in my other classes, like I said, the professors were great help in mentoring us and really getting over that challenge. And they were very understanding. They moved our final to become, they suited it so that it would help us perform and show our performance in a more effective way when we went online.
Thank you so much, Nahid. I'm very happy to hear that as international students, you had a lot of resources available there. And, you know, being disconnected from social engagement, especially from your siblings and family, is really hard, especially during quarantine. But I'm happy you had the resources available and you did very well. Thank you so much, Nahid. We will now shift to Liza, who just joined us. Liza, if you can hear us, would you please share your experience on how the pandemic affected learning and education in your school? And what were some of the activities you did before and during the quarantine to help your students keep up with their learning?
Now, our discussion is the effect of coronavirus on the education sector. Here, we can say that the coronavirus is an unexpected thing on all, and has a negative effect on all of sectors, especially on the education sectors. With the effect on the education sectors, there is a need to create an alternative education plan to prevent dropout. So many countries around the world use online education plans. Our students still don't have access on the online education plan, don't have access on computer on online sector, and so many things or facilities, and they face too many problems. With these problems, I think we can say that online education plan is not us. 3 months ago, we, as a fellow of Teach For Afghanistan Organization, prepared a plan we prepared a plan to facilitate of education process, which is to prepare chapters for students by using school subjects and many information of for students. Our chapters including summarizing of school subjects and more activities and some motivational content to motivate students for improvement. By distributing these chapters and project, it made students to not be inactive, and they will be able to get a good score or grade in their exam.
Liza, I'm happy you did something great for your students, and unlike many places that students or the closure of schools simply means in Afghanistan that students would simply stop learning, but you did something great and the result was also great. Thank you so much for sharing this experience. And we would like to know if you also did something about giving awareness to the students about the COVID-19 measures. Like, most of the people do not know about it, and some are unaware still of the measures to be taken in order to prevent the infection. Do anything, or did you hold any awareness giving session to your students as well, or not?
Yes, I prepared something for our students in our chapters to be aware from this virus. And our chapter is can motivate and can help to not afraid from this virus, and be pass from education, and it can help students to get motivated and go ahead and improve in their future. And it is our chapter have many motivational things also to be aware from this virus, and don't afraid.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing this. Now we would like to just ask one question back from Nahid. Nahid, you have a lot of resources available. Do you think some of the steps taken toward online learning are also applicable in the Afghan context or not? You had a lot of resources, I guess, and do you think they are somehow applicable in the Afghan context or not?
Well, I was thinking about this, and the primary thing that we need to go to online learning is the internet, and we don't have that that's not accessible to every it's a luxury in Afghanistan to have internet, and to even have a phone to go on the internet and research a topic. So in this case, I would say that the best way that we could have gone about this, or we could even go forward now, is to get the students, the teachers, to actually record those lectures, and find other ways. So like USB hardwares where you can store those lectures and give a student a couple of those with enough space so that they could listen to those lectures, and even like make it interactive where the teachers ask questions on those USBs, where the students could, like on a scheduled visits, they could go back to their school, grab theirs, their particular USB, listen to the lectures, and then even like when they have questions, the teachers could ask questions in those USBs, and then the students could record themselves and even send those back to the teacher. That way they would be engaged. And this could happen while observing the public health guidelines like social distancing and wearing a mask, things like that.
Thank you so much for the nice suggestion. Now we would like to ask this from Lisa. Lisa, what Nahid has just suggested on an alternative plan for continuing the education and keeping up with learning. Do you think this is applicable in your context of teaching and learning in schools?
I think there's our students not access for computer or technology system, don't have access, or our students don't know about technology things like computer.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I think Nahid wants to share something on how this could be workable. Nahid, please.
So I know that the lack of revenue and the lack of resources and even investment in this kind of learning is very limited. But also, I think from my experience when I was in Kabul and I was a student there, computer learning and even like going on the internet, these were looked down upon by the society and even my public school teachers at Rabi Balkhi. They wouldn't even like let us go and learn in the way that like you know, it was respected, it was looked down. Like has shown us so many things that we could do better as human beings. Like we could actually bring greenhouse gases down by a lot to save our planet. We could come together as a world to help, you know, end poverty, for example. Those are some of the things that we've realized that we can do. And as a country, I think that our government gets enough foreign aid to invest in this kind of virtual learning, because we are moving more towards a digital world where computer learning, natural language processing, even software engineering, programming, things are becoming mainstream in the world. And as a developing country, we need to invest more towards that. And I think the pandemic has shown us as that is, necessary more than ever today. So it's just a wake-up call for us as a country, I would say.
Yeah, thank you so much for the wonderful thoughts and the experience. Yes, the students in the US, of course, have a lot of resources available, and they invest a lot in their visual learning and their education. While in Afghanistan, the education sector is facing a lot of problems. But I'm happy that Liza, along with the other teachers of Teach For Afghanistan Organization, has did something great for her students, and they prepared easy learning chapters, which proved really helpful. Thank you everyone for sharing the wonderful experiences, and